My name's Dirk Pleiter. I joined the Air Force in London, Ontario.
I'm Alec McLaren from Watford.
My name is Cliff Stokes, and I came from Toronto.
My name is Arnold Graham. I'm from Lakeville, Ontario. We flew on 433 Squadron, and that was the Porcupine Squadron. We were the only crew on the squadron that I knew of. We're all from Ontario.
That was on the squadron, Skipton-on-Swale.
Yeah. Can you name the people?
Yeah, this is, well, here I am on the left-hand side, and then that is Dick.
Yep.
And Alec,
Okay.
and Dennis, and Clay Fisher, Mac McGregor, and Arnold. There's no doubt the Navigator and the bomb aimer. I think that you and McGregor used to be, they were working constantly, I would say, because I could hear the chatter on the intercom, and I forget how many fixes that you had to take, how often you had.
You were supposed to take fixes continually,
That's right.
either by ground observation, and you were required to, expected to be able to take a fix, plot it on your chart, find the wind from that fix, DR ahead
What, 6 minutes or
6
something?
minutes,
Yeah?
and establish a new course, and you just did that repeatedly. The Navigator had a little bench that would be about, I suppose, 24 inches wide and about, I think, 4 or 5 feet long. And at the right-hand end of it sat the H2S receiver and the G receiver. And you spread your chart out, and hung your parachute on a hook behind you, and settled into work. The Navigator was in a curtained-off compartment and didn't see any of the scary stuff that the pilot and bomb aimer and 2 gunners saw. The wireless operator had a little bit of a window, I think, at his left-hand side where he could see a little bit outside. But I was completely oblivious to what was going on around. It was a good thing.
Maybe I can step in here and cover for some of the non-present crew. As far as Mac, our bomb aimer, is concerned, I think his first duty was to check the bomb bay and make sure that everything checked with what he'd been told about the rate. And then he'd get up into the nose of the aircraft and would turn the power on and go through his checks on his bomb panel. There would be switches and stuff associated with timing of the release of the bombs, and whatever pattern of timing would be associated, whether it's one 4,000-pound cookie or a whole bunch of 250s. And in addition to checking that, he'd be checking his gyro-controlled, I'm trying to think of the name of the
Gyro-stabilized.
Gyro-stabilized bomb site, yeah.
Yeah.
So that this little angled mirror with the reticle showing on it would be operating properly. And that would be his main duty at that stage. And for Clay, the wireless operator, I suppose he'd be checking his receiver equipment and transmitter equipment in whatever way these equipments can be checked beforehand. And Denny, our engineer, would be sitting next to the pilot position, and his main interest is the control panels with the fuel gauges and quantities of this type of thing. And the gunners, I guess, would have their own checks to do.
First thing we did, we got into the gun turrets and checked your guns to make sure they were loaded and there was lots of ammunition. If you didn't have that, there was no use of going along. But
you gunners used to check your guns once you were out over the North Sea or something. Didn't you fire off a few rounds, didn't you?
I never did.
I'd fire them over his head to keep the weight. That was the ritual for every time I got in my turret to check the guns, and I never got in the turret without. I had the Bible that my mother gave me, pocket Bible. She paid 50 cents for it. I still have it. I never made a trip without it. I didn't read it much, but it was there.
This was a daylight raid on on Hamburg that we were making.
It was a 500 bomber raid, 480 some bombers. We were the second last plane, and that wasn't a very nice spot to be sitting when you're making a bomber run and looking for fighters. And
We approached the target, and I can remember that we could see a raid taking place off in the distance.
Yeah.
And that raid was the first raid we had fighter escort. And we had Mustangs as escort, and they were sitting up the back, and we looked pretty safe when they were sitting there. Well, we were told that day if we had any attacks to shoot up red flares. Well, the Germans sent 109s to attack the front of the formation. All you could see was red flares up in front. So all the fighter escort we had left us to go up and protect the front of the bombing group. Well, that left us exposed, and all of a sudden the plane, a little off to our right and to the rear, blew up. I looked up at the sky, and there was these planes that we'd never seen before attacking.
I was at the tail here, and the aircraft here was just all in flames. The jet came by, and just as fast as you can imagine, and fired at the aircraft on the other side of us there. And by the time I'd swiveled my turret around, all from about the mid-up position to the tail of the aircraft next to us was on fire. Then it broke off, and the aircraft went straight down like that. And this has all happened in a matter of seconds, eh?
I called to the wireless operator to start shooting up some red flares. We need them, and within a few seconds the Mustangs come back and helped us out.
By the time I got my turret turned around to the back, there's a 262 is coming in, and with a Mustang right behind it, and I'm firing, and Arnold's firing, and geez, how far away was that when it blew up? It couldn't have been
Not too far.
a couple of 100 feet or so. All of a sudden, woof, just.
We made the bomb run all right, dropped our load. On the way out, Mac did what he's supposed to do on each case. He had a little peephole sort of thing that was looking right down the bomb bay, just to check if there were any hang-ups. And I guess because of the evasive action, while we were still fully loaded with bombs, there was a bit of a problem with the hangers on a couple of the bombs. And sure enough, he could see a hang-up on one of the hooks. So he crawled back down to the appropriate hook position and was able to mechanically drop this bomb and get it away from us. Unfortunately, there was a second right behind that one that he didn't know about, and we landed with a live bomb on board back at base. And I don't think the ground crew were too happy to see that when the bays opened up and there was this hang up there. Interesting to compare the difference between daytime and nighttime operations. In the daytime, you'd be going in a 500 plane raid or something to a target in various groups, and you're steering away and you look up and there's another Lanc up there just getting ready to open the bomb doors with a big bomb right over your head. So that could be kind of worrisome. By the same token, though, there are problems with night flying. You'd be going on the course that your navigator had all plotted out for you, and at some point in time you'd come to a turning point and you'd have to make a bit of a turn. And of course there's 500 other aircraft doing that same thing spread out. And at nighttime, it would really shake you when you're flying along trying to pay attention. All of a sudden, another aircraft cuts right in front of you because it happens to be just a little bit over to your starboard when he's making that turn. It's a wonder they didn't lose more aircraft through collisions in these operations.
Flying mid-upper, I used to look up and see those bomb bay doors open. I said, don't let them go yet. Let us get just a little bit out from underneath you. Very scary.
Oh, and this is interesting. The last couple of listings there were called Exodus trips. This was after the ceasefire sort of thing, and we did some runs to Brussels, landing in Brussels, to pick up POWs, Allied POWs that had been released.
We'd have, what, 20 or 25 ex-POWs crowded into the aircraft, and of course there were no seats for them, and they didn't have parachutes or anything.
And we would fly them back to Wing, I think it was just north of London. And on one of these two trips, we ran into a bit of a problem. On the circuit coming in, we were stacked with other aircraft, and the undercarriage light showed as if there was a problem. The undercarriage was going to collapse, so we had a bit of a dicey landing at that time. Luckily, everything was okay.
One of the procedures was to blow the gear down with the compressed air. And on the starboard side of the wall of the aircraft, there was a big red flag there for emergency use only. And the flight engineer, of course, was instructed by Dirk to lift this flap and pull this valve that let the air into the lines and blew the gear down. And these poor POWs that were sitting on the nav bench beside me had a full front view of all this that was going on. And of course, they didn't have any intercom. There was no way of telling them what was happening. And I think they thought, well, we've survived the war and now we're going to get it.
Our first trip was we picked them up at Brussels, flying back on VE Day there. And and they gave us goodie bags to give to them. We were to hand them out to them when they got on the plane. Well, I did that the first trip, but after that, no more. You had to wait till they got off the plane, because there was chocolate bars and all kinds of goodies. They eat them all, and they vomited all over the inside of the plane. So they said, from now on, give them to them when they get off the plane.
That was an interesting period, too. We did at least one trip back over the continent and took up some of the ground crew with us just to show them the damage and what it looked like from the air.
Our wartime experience is something that, now that you're back safe, you wouldn't have missed for anything, because you had experiences and you formed friendships that
They're closer than brothers.